Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the OutLoud Culture Podcast. My name is Alex Shannon, and today we're going to be discussing horror movies, horror video games, horror in general, really.
I'm Alexander Trevini. And I'm here to contribute to the discussion. We're going to be talking about things like the directors of the horror genre, people who have helped create it, and people who have helped destroy it, as well as actors, and how horror was once promising, now a joke in Hollywood, and how it's mostly shifted to video game areas.
Yep, and I'm Vlad Pavlov. I have a love-hate relationship with, horror in general. If you've read my first article, What's Wrong with Horror Movies, it's the very first thing I ever wrote in OutLoud Culture. You know that I definitely have some problems with it. I like the classics. I really like the Vincent Price stuff. But over the last 10 years, we have really started to fail in general in horror.
Hello, and I'm Zachary F.R. Anderson. I'm one of the television critics for OutLoud Culture. I cover American Horror Story as well as Modern Family, and I will be taking part in this podcast talking about what is a horror and what is a thriller.
Now, I'd just like to state for the record, I'm not a huge fan of the horror genre. I mostly watch anything that's classic and actually good, but it's never been one of my. While I do enjoy some of that stuff, it's never been one of my favorites, and I've especially lost a lot of excitement for it over the past several years, as it's become probably the biggest joke genre in the industry, and probably the most cliched genre ever right now.
See, I always
disagree. I think there's a renaissance in horror. If you look at The Babadook and It Follows, those are some.
You can't consider two movies a renaissance.
Yeah,
those are the only two that you can really say have
two artists.
It.
Can we hang on, guys? You guys are all talking over each other, so I'm gonna go ahead and play the part of the moderator here. Alexander, do you want to go first?
Sure. We can talk about movies first. Horror has been is perhaps one of the oldest genres in the industry, really, because
about as old as Westerns, I think.
Oh, definitely.
It's older. I mean, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was an Edison back in what, 1901.
Oh yeah,
it was considered the first horror movie. It's one of the very first films ever made.
And what is it about horror movie villains that are so iconic? Partially the way they act, their personalities, the way they look. Vampires wouldn't have lasted as long as they are if there wasn't something innately scary about them. There's something about them, and Frankenstein and psychopathic killers that freaks people out, like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, for instance. It's Norman Bates. You're scared of him. You want to get away from him, but at the same time, you kind of feel sorry for him, even because of his relationship with his mother, in a way. That's part of it. But whereas Vlad the Impaler, he's just that. He's a creature who cannot be reasoned with. He is pure evil. That is what made Bram Stoker's book appeal. And I look at things now I haven't seen Dracula Untold, but the ending of the trailer, my first thought immediately was, what has Bram Stoker done to make Hollywood hate him so much?
I'll say Dracula Untold was not a horror movie. It was an action movie. They took the whole Vlad the Impaler thing becoming Dracula and changed it. I mean, you guys, based on my name, you know how much I love Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
And I also love Dracula. But I think they should be, if you're going to do it that way, they need to be two separate characters. I mean, Vlad the Impaler was very scary in his own right, but he's not Dracula scary. And to combine those characters, you lose what's good in both of them.
The thing is, Dracula was a character.
Dracula
was a character inspired by Vlad the Impaler. A lot of people forget this. Bram Stoker, he never intended for Vlad the Impaler to actually be Dracula. He sort of intended it as for the reader to come up with it for themselves. He wanted to blur the lines. He is Vlad the Impaler, but he isn't Vlad the Impaler. He kind of wanted to be confusing. He intentionally meant to confuse the readers because he wanted them to really think about it.
That sort of reminds me of the Dracula story from the Castlevania reboot, because they
as John
try
called it, Castlevania, Lords of Plagiarism.
But yeah, they tried to make Dracula more sympathetic, and the thing is that, in Castlevania, Dracula is somewhat sympathetic because you can sort of understand why he did what he did, but at the same time, you probably relate a lot more to Alucard and Simon Belmont and all those guys because they're not freaking nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's part of what ruined Darth Vader with the prequels, because, like, I'm not going to say he's exactly a horror icon, but he used to be one of the greatest villains in cinematic history, and he was genuinely scary. But then the prequels come around, they turn him into
They turn him into a he's a great villain, and then turn him into
he's a villain of pure evil. He's pure evil, and then they turn him into first whiny kid, then they make him into a heartthrob teenage angst idiot. I'm like, oh, what did Darth Vader do? What did Darth Vader do to you, Lucas?
That's like
make you rich?
That's like the transition that Freddy Krueger had. He went from a genuinely scary villain with a sick sense of humor to a wisecracking and dumbass.
I mean, he was always kind of in that character. They just exaggerate it more come Nightmare 4. I mean,
that's what you get. It's Flanderization.
He's always been a wisecracker, really. I've seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of them. The only ones worth watching are 1, 3, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But the thing about Freddy Krueger, when the Michael Bay produced reboot came around, like, a part of it they were forcing...
I thought Bay was the one who did the Texas Chainsaw movies.
He did that as well. The part about the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, they sort of try to force it. They really forced it in how this guy was awful, and yeah, he was a terrible person. Well, he was awful, but like the way the reboot handled it, like, is it both a child murderer and child rapist, whereas
the child rapist was always there. That was always just an undertone. They never came out and said it. But...
in the original, he was like child murderer, definitely, but child rapist, it was kind of subtly hinted at it.
It was hinted at, but they didn't want to put it in there.
They didn't want people. They didn't want to put it in because they felt it was too forced because they already have child murderer. So, and look, I will say this: Jackie Earle Haley. There's nothing wrong with Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. He was a really good choice to play the guy, and he performed excellently.
I like Jackie Earle Haley.
The problem is he was given terrible material to work with. If they kept Jackie Earle Haley and replaced everything else, then you might get a decent movie.
So, Zachary, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I just wanted to add something, backtracking to Dracula. I agree with all the points you're making where, really the huge thing was making him empathetic was the biggest mistake that the entertainment industry has ever made. But there was also this sexiness to Dracula, even in the very first movies, wouldn't you agree? It was that brought people towards him, but at the same time you really were afraid of him just because of how pure evil he was. Yet there was
that really depends on the portrayal, you know.
Like even
in the book, though.
I wouldn't call Bela Lugosi's portrayal exactly sexy, though.
No, you know.
Well, for 1930 standards.
If you want to call any portrayal sexy, you know,
Dracula Untold, definitely.
Yeah, Dracula Untold, you know.
Christopher Lee did an amazing job. I think his was kind of sexy.
Gary Oldman's Dracula, you know.
Which was Vlad the Impaler as well.
Yeah, he's...
Oldman and Lee, they're amazing.
A lot of women I know who like Gary Oldman.
and he's looking good for a man 52 years old. Or is it 57?
I forget. But yeah, I mean, the whole sex factor of Dracula goes all the way back to Bram Stoker's Dracula. The original book even has a lot of sexual stuff with it, and it was really taboo at the time, and it was really put into that book. And a lot of people don't notice that part, but there is a lot of sex and everything in that book.
Yeah, because a little-known fact, Vlad the Impaler himself, he didn't impale his victims in the heart. He actually stuck a wooden stake up,
Yeah. Because it made them suffer more. They wouldn't die immediately. They'd suffer, and when people come right in, they see them still alive. It was an intimidation factor.
Yeah. So...
Ouch.
Yeah, right in the, that area. I'm not going to say...
the whole reason with Dracula drinking blood came from the fact that Vlad the Impaler, doing this impaling took a long time. So what he would do was he would stop and have lunch in the middle of it. So he would collect his enemy's blood in a cup, and during it he would dip his bread in the blood and that's where the whole blood drinking also came from.
That's part of it too. Yeah.
And the whole idea behind Frankenstein was, the idea of reanimating the dead, and
Which was considered a very legitimate theory back then.
and
Oh yeah.
and
And
also
that's
very
part of what drove
taboo.
And
the-
that's part of what partially inspired Zombies with George Romero.
Yeah, but the
Well,
thing
that
about
was more the vampires from Last Man on Earth. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
But the thing
let me
about,
let me give all the Living Dead movies in a nutshell for you. Everyone died. The end. Thank you, Patrick Starr.
but yeah, the thing about Frankenstein is that he was always the more sympathetic horror monster because
He wasn't even a monster, really. He
Yeah,
was a
he was
creature, and
just-
people didn't understand him.
Yeah, he was just
Yeah.
a confused, tormented soul. That's part of what endeared him. There's
His
a difference.
creator betrayed him, and
Yeah.
he was left for nothing, and everybody hated him. Well, he still tried to be sympathetic. I mean, we even got that in Boris Karloff's,
He's more of an
adaptation of
anti-hero,
it.
really, if you think
Mhm.
about it. He's more of an anti-hero.
and people don't see that anymore. He's always the
Yeah.
big, dumb monster who goes around killing people, and that transformation really,
Yeah.
I think, ruined the character.
yeah,
And most
It's
people don't
funny.
even know him as Frankenstein's monster
Yeah.
or Adam, his real name. People know him as Frankenstein, which is another thing that's...
well, that's
all
the thing is that
Well-
his name is Frankenstein because
Well,
As-
He's
Frankenstein's
technically the
doctor-
son of Dr.
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's the
Frankenstein.
doctor who created him. Frankenstein, as most people know him, is just the monster, the creation. But the
Adam
funny thing
Frankenstein.
He called himself Adam a couple times because there was a lot of biblical references, so he called himself Adam after the first man.
Oh yeah. Funny story, actually. The more I think about it, the more I notice the villains who have always been known to be pure evil and remorseless, they're the ones who are getting turned into tragic villains or anti-heroes, while the anti-heroes and tragic villains are getting turned into pure evil.
Or just dumb evil.
They're just evil to be evil.
Yeah, like, it's not pure evil. It's just, oh, look at me, I'm the bad guy, audience. Can you get it? I'm the bad guy. That's great, but what do you actually do?
I
Yeah,
hit things and they fall down.
And this is one of the problems with modern day
Yeah.
horror movies is we don't have characters that have a reason to be evil. They're just there, and we have no backstory. We think they could be scary just because they give us a voice and they pop up at times. There's no story as to why they're evil.
Look at me! I have deep, dark, scary voice. I run around saying how much people suck. I am pure evil.
No,
Exactly,
that is not,
that's the
that is
problem.
not pure evil.
Yeah.
That is just you being a dick. Like, pure evil, what it's meant to do is show you are evil. That you don't care at all. That you will do this and not blink an eye. That you will look scary. You will act scary. You will just walk by, see the murders of innocents, and not even bat an eye towards it. You will just walk by while stay completely focused on your objective, no matter what. You are focused wholeheartedly on nothing more than the single thing that drives your mind, and that's what is scary.
Yeah, and I think that's I'm gonna bring up Alien now because
Like the trailer to Alien and The Shining, they're probably scarier than most modern horror movies today.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I'm gonna bring up Alien right now. The first Alien is amazing because it is amazingly scary because you have no idea what this creature is.
And that's another problem that we have with
Yeah.
modern day
Yeah.
horror is
It
now that we
bleeds-
can show them.
Yeah, it bleeds
Yeah.
acid.
Yeah.
Even if you hurt it'll still hurt you.
Yeah, that's the thing about Alien. Like, and a lot of horror movies back then, it was fear of the unknown. That is essential to horror. Fear
Yeah.
of the unknown, and
But
it's
now
okay.
that we have higher budgets, that's no longer happens. We figured that we can show them, so let's just show them instead of building up the anticipation and everything.
And it's
Right.
fine to show them, like, but in the first movie where you establish the monster, you have to hide it for a bit, and after a while, like of hiding it in the shadows, then you can finally show it and really scare the audience. And for the next movie, if you don't want to hide them, then that's fine, but you have to handle them delicately then. If you want
Yeah.
to show them instead of hide them, then they must be handled delicately in order to maintain to still be scary, like James Cameron's sequel to Ridley Scott's
Aliens.
movie Aliens.
Yeah, the
They,
thing
it's much more action.
I
It's
wouldn't
much more
consider
of a-
Alien. Yeah, I was about to say I wouldn't consider Aliens a horror
I know.
movie. It was an
I
action
will
movie.
say it's much more of a war movie, but the aliens are
Yeah.
still scary.
yeah, the aliens
not
are still scary
I
because
think
they
it takes away from the aliens because now in the first Alien it was one alien, and that
Yeah.
thing haunted everybody. But in the sequel there were several aliens, and they just killed them like cannon fodder, and I think that took away from the scariness of the alien.
Well, they killed a bunch of them, but they in the end, the Horde overrode them. It's
But
like
it only took one in the first one. One was scary enough.
That's because they had no idea what these things were at the time, and several years had passed after the first Alien movie for
Right.
Alien. So
it was
I'm
at
sure
least it was like 50 years.
I'm sure the military had figured out some way of how to deal with them by that point. So,
I mean, not if they didn't have a body.
well, I'm sure that someone must have scavenged that area after the first movie.
But yeah, the thing about Aliens is that it shows. Okay, in Alien, they didn't have the same kind of military tech they had in Aliens, since they didn't really have military technology at all. They had flamethrowers and what else? That was it, wasn't it?
Well, also the pulse rifle. It's
Yeah.
actually just it's actually a Thompson submachine gun modified around and covered up in something to make it look futuristic.
Yeah, but anyways, the thing about Alien was that it paced itself. It had the, starts out kind of slow, and then they get onto the planet, and the face hugger comes out, and then it comes off, and then they're eating dinner, and then that's when the alien hits. That's when the alien pops out of his chest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And it's one of the best scenes because none of the actors knew what that thing was going to look like when it popped out, so it legitimately scared them, and that's another thing that they did well.
Yeah, that's actually I want more horror movies to do that. Like hide what the monster is from the actors themselves.
So that we can get a legitimate reaction.
Yeah, because like that was I forget which movie it was. It was a more recent one. The actor had no idea he was even going to get something jumping him, so only the rest of the cast did. So when it happened, it was actually quite an interesting reaction.
Yeah, but yeah, and then you go into Aliens, and they're making a little bit of progress. The Colonial Marines are, but in the end, almost all of them die.
Except for Michael Biehn and Sigourney Weaver.
Except for Hicks.
Cryosleep.
Yeah, except for Hicks, Ripley, Bishop, and Newt. And then that brings me to the failings of Alien 3, because
Alien 3 went back to at least a single alien, and they brought it back to the roots. I'll give it that.
Alien 3 is not as terrible as people make it out to be. There was potential to it.
It's definitely not Alien 4.
But yeah, it's wasted. I mean, Alien 4, like, the facehugger is ruined. So when a facehugger gets on Sigourney Weaver in Alien 4...
she just wrestles it off.
It's meant to kill her. Oh, and she's underwater, so wait, all you had to do to get rid of these things was just add water, and then it's gone? What?
Sigourney, Ripley is part alien in that, so, she's got the...
Yeah, is this like a clone or something like that?
She is. She's got the xenomorph, she's got xenomorph DNA in her. But the thing about Alien 3 was that, it tried to pace itself out, but it wound up just being way too slow. And do you want to know why part of that was? If you don't already know.
Was it the environment she was in?
They started shooting without a script.
Again, we talked about this last week. This is almost always a problem. I mean, with very few exceptions, does a movie without a script do good? I mean, you brought up The Shining, Alex. I mean, The Shining was filmed without a script for most of it.
And Casablanca.
That's a book
Casablanca
adaptation.
As well.
Shining was a book adaptation, so that it's kind of understandable.
It's based off book by name. That's about it.
Also, but also Stanley Kubrick had a habit of reshooting the exact same scene 157 times.
Yeah,
127 times. Yeah, that's
and a lot of geniuses think, hey, I can do this in just one take.
Well, see, the thing with Stanley Kubrick,
unlike Stanley Kubrick, these guys are not film geniuses.
See, the thing with Stanley Kubrick, and this is another thing that's good about horror, is he realized that I was gonna say Mary Shelley. Shelley Duvall? They realized that Shelley Duvall was not a good actor. She was not right for the part. So what he did was he not physically, but he mentally tortured her on set, and he physically wore her down. Yes.
Oh yeah, and like Jack Nicholson used an actual axe through the whole thing.
Yes.
Jack Nicholson used a real axe when he was breaking down the door.
So it legitimately scared her. Yes, it legitimately scared her. And so again, we get a real reaction. That everybody on set was broken down. That stairway scene, like you brought up, was 127 times. Everybody was breaking down. That was legitimate fear in their eyes.
And when you bring up Jack Nicholson's
see that anymore.
And when you bring up Jack Nicholson's other performances, like the Joker and Burton's Batman, yeah, it's kiddie and fun in a way, but he's still genuinely scary.
Yeah. But the thing about Alien 3 was not only did they not have the same caliber of effects they had in Aliens, they also didn't have the same caliber of effects they had in Alien. Not to mention the fact that the alien is right out there in the open all the time.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. Like, when you see too much of it, I mean, yeah, we all know what it looks like at this point,
Yeah.
but
We'll be back in
when
5.
when you show it too much instead of, like, having it creep around in the vents thinking, oh shit, it's gonna come for me, then it kind of removes the tension.
Hey, Zachary, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Hello?
Zachary? I think we lost him. I think we lost Zachary.
He's still on the thing.
Yeah.
It shows him still
His
here.
mic is-
Zach,
I'm
there we
here.
go.
Sorry.
you were muted this whole time?
No, I had to make a quick phone call. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
We're in this out of post, right, Alex?
Maybe, if I remember. So,
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Something else.
you know-
Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs. Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter.
Again,
yes.
legitimately creepy because he studied people who were like this. He studied killers. He studied everything.
And Anthony Hopkins was great, and Jodie Foster's reactions to him, that was great too.
Again, because a lot of the stuff he did was unscripted and it legitimately scared her.
It's amazing. And
He brings-
I kind of prefer the second movie with Hopkins because don't get me wrong, he's still scary in the first movie, but when you know he's not going to kill the main character, it kind of removes the tension.
Yeah.
But,
That doesn't remove any of his creepiness factor. He's still like one of the scariest people you'll ever meet. He would have been a great Joker.
I was just gonna go back to Alien 3. This is the same problem that the remake of The Thing had. The thing was they didn't have the alien on set with them. They had they added that in post. They had a guy in a suit on a green screen doing the alien stuff
For Alien 3?
for Alien 3. But then they went on to rotoscope the suit to death in post-production, and it wound up
Not
looking
only-
like this yellow CGI piece of crap.
Yeah,
you
it's out
can't-
of place.
You
It
can't even
doesn't
tell
look
that's a
real.
guy. You can't even tell that there's an actual real person there.
Right.
Like, and as a result of that, the alien. Not only does the alien look fake, but the reactions to it look so fake as well. Like,
Didn't you guys have
the
this
reactions
discussion a
look
couple
like that.
months back?
Yeah, we had this
feel-
discussion in the
this was
chat
perfect.
in the company chat room.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But yeah, like it takes away from everything. If one, it's out of place. If two, it's not real, and they have no real reaction to it. That's
Oh.
a big problem.
yeah. And speaking of Alien, Ridley Scott recently renamed the movie he's doing the new Alien
Yeah,
5.
Alien Paradise Lost.
It's actually Prometheus 2.
Prometheus 2,
Well,
yeah.
Prometheus 2 is Alien Paradise Lost. Neil Blomkamp is doing Aliens 5, which got pushed back because
Actually,
of
no,
Alien Paradise Lost.
that's actually just it's actually the Neil Blomkamp movie is an Alien 3 remake, except it's going to be working off
Is
the
it?
original Alien 3 script.
I'm still not.
Is it? Because I know it's
Well,
everybody's
it's
back.
Neil
It's confusing.
Blomkamp. I'm not optimistic because, well, one, it's Neil Blomkamp. Two, they're going.
He had such potential.
Two,
but, yeah,
Michael
we'll
Bean.
talk about that
Two,
later.
Michael Bean is going to be wasted again. Like what? And why are the only things Michael Bean gets these days just garbage? He's a really good actor.
He was in Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. He was pretty good in that.
Oh, he was?
Yeah. He played a he was like Kyle Reese plus Hicks, but with a bit of $6 Million Man thrown in.
So
Okay, so it says here he's actually voicing the player character,
Yes.
Sergeant Rex Power Colt.
Yes, that is the character's name.
that's okay.
But
That's
That's
ridiculous. But I'm sure if it's
Alien-
Michael Bean, that's gotta be awesome.
Alien Resurrection. Well, you ride around on giant laser dinosaurs in that game, so
I
But-
haven't played it. Then there's Colonial Marines, which
Ugh.
Everybody hated.
Not
Everybody
only-
hated.
not only is it one of the biggest debacles in gaming history and a perfect example of false advertising, but it's not in the least bit scary. And
That
just
game
look-
was in development hell for a decade. You do realize that, right?
I remember
Usually
that,
when
but
games are in development hell that long, it doesn't end well.
yeah, like you're running around. You can literally run through whole stages without shooting anything
Uh-huh.
and come out without a scratch, without being hit once.
You know,
And also the real enemies you fight are just idiot mercenaries.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the premise for Colonial Marines. This is what they said they were going to do, and this is what this was the original game plan. We're gonna go back. We're gonna undo everything that was done wrong to the series by Alien 3. We are going to fix all of that, and we're going to make a really good game, and it's going to have a really good story, and it's going to replace Alien 3 in continuity. But what they wound up delivering was something that was set slightly before Alien 3.
Yeah, like I don't recall
Yeah.
them ever saying.
And
I
then-
don't recall them ever saying they were replacing Alien 3. They just said the game was going to be canon. But so when it turns out Corporal Hicks is alive, even voiced again by Michael Biehn. But wait, we saw you die in Alien 3, played by Michael Biehn. Yeah, that was a totally different guy.
Well,
That was that was some totally different looking guy, as explained in
That
that
was-
DLC.
that was cut. That was something that got cut from the final version of the game. A lot of story
And
got
sold,
cut from
and
that.
sold as DLC.
Not at all. It was,
No, there's a DLC
they-
campaign where you
I
play as
know that.
Hicks.
I know that, but the thing was, the final version of the game, they scrapped the version of the Colonial Marines that they were making for the PS2 back in 2001. They scrapped that and they moved on it, and they were working on a different story. And I've actually seen some of the not the developer dialogues, not the developer diaries, but other stuff. The original plans for it was that it was going to be sort of set during and after Aliens, and it was going to erase Alien 3 from continuity. And the thing was, they cut a bunch of stuff and they rewrote a bunch of stuff, and then the final story bared absolutely no resemblance to the one that they were pitching when the game was in development.
Yeah, I don't recall them ever saying they were going to retcon Alien 3, but you do remember that E3 gameplay demo, right?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
totally fake. Like, the face huggers don't move around in the tubes whenever you go close to them. The aliens don't interact with the environment, climbing on the walls or going through the vents or anything.
Mhm.
Like, none of that happens.
Yeah, and then we come to Alien Resurrection. Now, what do you guys think of Alien Resurrection? I personally like it a lot better than Alien 3, but that's mostly just because
I know it's universally
Yeah.
hated.
I don't even remember anything that happened. That's how much I don't like it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It was a much better horror movie than Alien 3 was, but it was also it was kind of ridiculous funny, as opposed to being the ridiculous there's absolutely no reason to believe what the hell's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
At times, the aliens just stand still and do nothing when fresh human meat is right in front of them.
But in Alien Resurrection, Joss Whedon actually directed and wrote that.
Really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched Firefly?
Yep.
I haven't seen that.
Well, the crew of the Betty is like a more piratey version of the crew of the
No,
Serenity.
Resurrection was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Okay, I think it was written by
It was,
Joss Whedon.
Yeah, written by Whedon. Written by Whedon.
Yeah.
It was
And
written by him, but
That was like one of his first movies, wasn't it?
I think so.